hear me well? I'm running around and trying to show slide. And thus in Exodus really started in 1942 when I was born from moving in Russia, and should inspire generation of adult youth to learn that we can achieve our hopes through passion, determination, and a belief in the goal. And the goal in this case was to have a home for the Jews. So you know all this stuff, but I felt I have to say it. And now I'll give you a briefing what the presentation will be, that I will be showing a short movie that was made by Ruth Graber. And she passed away a year ago, she was 100 years old. She was a a photographer for New York Times, and she was the one that made people aware about what the Jews went through in Europe by taking pictures and publishing in the United States, and I'll get to it in more specific, and made people aware to what the Jews went through, going and suffering, and eventually end up in Israel. So starting that, I will start with to show you this. Thank you.
It's the voice of fighting science. This is the voice of fighting science. The underground radio, the urban fighting.
Not talk about my past. And she looked at me and said, "Don't worry." And then she gave a talk, and she said, "Here's one of the children of Exodus." And I was shocked. Then eventually about hundreds of people came to talk to me, and I forced myself to be able to talk about an experience which I didn't want to. But anyway, so I could thank Ruth. She passed away by 100 years old, a wonderful lady. And as you notice it, she was the one that introduced the event in the United States. And then the United States and other countries started to think about it, how they can help the Jews that left from all the concentration camps and from Europe, etc., to Israel. So that was a breakthrough in the event, which is very important to understand. So now I'll go through slides that will show you the amount of traveling as a Jews, like from Egypt. We say, and that's one of the things that I like an analogy. We say Exodus is not a good name, but Yetziat Europa, because we can say Yetziat Mitzrayim. Every time we go in the Hebrew, say Yetziat, we go out to Mitzrayim, and Yetziat Europa, we went from Europa to Israel. So I thought that makes more sense. So now I'll start with slideshow. Can you hear? Oh, come. Maybe I should take it.
Yeah, lower there, yeah, exactly.
Can you see? Okay. Anyway, so just to start and the slide, give you a background, which is typically a lot of Jews that went on Exodus. My parents were born in Lodz and in Poland, and before the war, obviously. Next slide, please. And then the family of my father's side, my father is standing. Some people look like him, and next to him is his sister and his family. And the family said what happened, my father fought in the war, the Second War, got wounded and was in the hospital. And he saw the people segregate Jews. And maybe he will live at the end and we will live. So we don't know. Unfortunately, they all were killed by the Germans. His sister, younger sister, went to Russia with him. Next, please. My mother, on the other hand, didn't know my mother, was extremely knowledgeable in many languages and literature, and she got a fellowship to study in Moscow. So she was very short and extremely bright, and her father was a very famous rabbi and Hasid, and he was killed with all his students. So she was able to escape because she was moving, went to the train station, but unfortunately because it was a panic in Poland, the people were pushing around to get on train. So my mother, instead of get on a train to go to Moscow, went to Krasnoyarsk, which is in Siberia. And the reason things happened to Siberia, because that was the backing of the industry for people to preparing for the war against the Germans. So that's what you see here from Lodz. My mother went to Krasnoyarsk, which is about above Tibet. It's pretty far in Siberia along the Yenisei River. And my father was wounded and went through took one of his sister and he crossed the border at nighttime and threw away his paper. And he was very well known in mass production system. And he said, that's what I am. So they took him to Krasnoyarsk because that was the support network he was. So that's in a way how they got to the same cities that was safe for the Jews at the time. Okay, that's me, 2 years old, in Krasnoyarsk. And the lady, next one please, next to me, it's maybe a better picture, was the one that taught me how to sing Russian songs. So in a way, what happened, the family went all to Krasnoyarsk. At the end of the war, the only way you could live there, had 30 days to be able to leave Russia because they were Polish citizens. So they left Russia, crossed the border, and we went on trains, cattle trains, and we walked a lot. We had to cross a wild mountain by foot. And I skipped to show another program, was on Channel 6. If you go, it's called Prime Time of My Life. And I was there, they were able to go to the archive and show the pictures in the program. But it didn't work here, so anyway, so that was a tremendous effort to be able to cross the border. Eventually, we end up at Sète, France. And again, misleading some of the ideas. Exodus left France, but next please. So you see the traveling. So that was in the stories that already Ruth gave you an idea about the boat that was really designed for 530 people and was close to 5,000 people on the boat. They demolished all the partition and allowed to sleep on the floor. So that was the way they were able to take so many people. Next please. So that's a good example. Some of you read Hebrew, it's okay, but the important part is, I'll point it out. So the Exodus left from Sète, went up the one here, and at this part, area here, exactly this part, the people, the battleship that you saw, the British, sometimes I say British and sometimes I say really German, because the way they were dressed and their pictures, and looked to me like German. It was scary to me as a child, at the time, 5 years old. Anyway, so Exodus was caught here, was smooshed by the two big battleships and went to Haifa, and they were put down by Haifa by force. And this British say, you wouldn't stay here, we'll take you back where you came from. So that's Exodus. Now you can see why it was all destroyed here. And a miracle like that it was that we really were able to float through to Haifa. Next, please. So that's an event in Haifa. Next. The reason I'm bringing that up, and here in the Teatro Opata, is really the name that we like to use. Okay. Next, please. And here again, is a better picture. You see, I'm standing down there looking down. You will see later on. That's it. So when we went to Haifa, were done. And that was, again, I want to thank Ruth Graber again because she made people aware in the United States what happened to the Jews. And I'm making a point that's so important to know that America really helped a lot in finance and being power. And Exodus was from the Mississippi, a boat brought up all the way to Europe to help to bring people. They were looking, some people went small boats, etc. We couldn't do it because we were a family with small kids. So we went eventually with Exodus. Next, please. Here is at this point, it's also like to make a point, is that when they took down the families, etc., they separate children from the parents. And that's where I lost my parents and they found me up later on. So it's important to understand that Exodus went here and that's it, and they were stopped here. We were put into 3 different battleships. We were on Empire One. So Empire River that went all the way up to Port de Pou. And the French came down and said, please come in, etc. But nobody wants to leave their boat. So they say, okay, you don't want to, we'll take you back. And all the way up here, all the way to Hamburg. And the Hamburg here was a concentration camp there. Next, please. This is it's a Exodus. There's a picture we have from the album at home. And that's my father down there. You don't see me and my Alden was still decking and we were sleeping on the floor. And next, please. And that's not exactly, that's another boat, but Empira also had the wire mesh all around. And me, I was very athletic kind of. I climbed over that and wanted to jump into the water. And I don't have a picture of that, but the people were screaming and somehow it convinced me to come down. I was restless and scared, truth. And something in association happened now as a young kid. I like to make a point. Those memories never disappear. And sometimes I do have nightmares. Now I can tell you why I thought they were like German. And that's when they came down and the separate, and you see no press. So Ruth Graber was outstanding, took a lot of pictures, and I met her. I really thank her for all what she did. Next. And here's a camp in Hamburg. It's outside Hamburg. And that's what the living area in the place in Hamburg. Next, please. And that's me, my father, my sister Rutka. That's me and my mother. And here we're back in France in Marseille. And that's where, in the beginning, we got lost. And my parents found us. And my sister, I was at that time 5, and my sister was 2. So again, from Hamburg was the American joint that helped us to decide where we want to go. And I guess the option is to come to United States or Israel. And my parents said, we suffered too much. We want to go home, and we decided to go to Israel. So we traveled all the way to Marseille. And Marseille is another boat when it was Ketma. In Hebrew, Ketma progressed. And it went to Haifa, and then where I was raised. Next, please. Here, example, I was a graduate of Technion High School, and then also the Technion. I came to the United States as a Fulbright scholar. And in my life, I went through 5 wars, and the listening of the war, and participated in 2. Next, please. So, as a Fulbright grant, I came all the way to Philadelphia, University of Pennsylvania, to study. And after this, the Six Day War, participated in the Yom Kippur War. Next one, this. I went back to Israel and stayed about 2 weeks in Israel. We did a good job in the war, but it was I lost a few friends. So that gives you an overview of the amount of traveling I did in my life. So basically, again in summary, I feel very strong the awareness to pay attention to children, because children will never forget. Thank you.